Good morning. So cloaking cowardice refers to the hiding of one's lack of bravery by using things that look like piety. For example, if you are familiar with someone who says, well, I'm pacifist, I don't approve of violence, things like this. There's nothing wrong with being a pacifist inherently, unless it conflicts with your duties as a man. So when a man has a family or just someone they're responsible for, well, you are, as that man, you are responsible for their safety as well as their provision. Okay? Teaching, provision, and safety, all of these things are something that you are responsible for. So if a man, for instance, says to you, I will not harm anyone no matter what. Well, that's good, but not also totally good, because being a pacifist does require a certain degree of courage in itself if you are doing it for the moral reasons of you believe firmly that God does not allow Christians to commit violence under any circumstances. And that it pins you in a very vulnerable position, and you have to essentially accept your fate, whatever that fate is. I am not a pacifist because I believe in protection as a responsibility of the man. So, what you might see for those who are not doing this for a moral reason, for those who are doing this for out of their own cowardice, is a lack of care for others or for their own responsibilities. This will be guised using false piety, such as false piety, but you can also see it in the deception that comes with self-centeredness, or just an inability to grapple with reality, unfortunately. And I'm trying to distinguish between the two, so I'm neither one of these. But if you are under the impression that God does not allow Christian people to commit violence, I used to be one of those. I was one of them for a time when I was younger. Not that way anymore. It changed as soon as I had, like, for instance, dating a woman, or a girl, I guess you could say, at that time. But you come to knowledge with these things very quickly when you're faced with reality. When you are faced with reality, your worldview is going to correct itself very quickly. So if you find yourself being one of these people, I really would suggest that you strongly consider the scriptures and pray about this and think about what it would be under the worst circumstances, and then it gets to be very clear. So if you are cloaking and deceiving people, then you're probably deceiving yourself too. You don't actually know that you are this way. Anyway, that's between you and God. But please do think about this. So there are two sections here. There's cowardice, and there is overconfidence, potentially, right? And in between there is understanding. So there's cowardice. You're afraid. You fear confrontation because of your personal safety, or because you fear your failure in a physical confrontation. Which okay. And the other side would be overconfidence. Oh man, no man, I got this. Whatever happens, I'll pop a cap and or man, I know judo. I get the. All right, fine. In between, there is a sweet spot. The sweet spot is courage and understanding. So you recognize danger instead of failing to recognize danger or overestimating your own ability, etc. Or cowardice, where you say, no, there's no way. I'm going to be involved in this no matter what. No matter what, I won't do this. Okay. Those who find themselves on this end are usually very vocal about it, foolhardy. Those who find themselves on this end are usually not very vocal about it. When violence is brought up in any way, they say, no, God will protect me, and I will pray, and it will all work out. Okay, well, hundreds of thousands of Christians throughout history, if not millions, probably millions, who were martyred by those who sought to hurt them, would disagree with you. And their families would disagree with you. As I said before, your responsibility as a man, when you have even just yourself, you have a responsibility to exist and to protect the existence of those you're responsible for. And in Galatians it says to do good to all people, but especially those of the Christian faith. Okay, so you're feeding and clothing yourself, you're feeding and clothing those you're responsible for, but their safety goes beyond just their nourishment and warmth. This means not only if someone breaks in the night and you're the one that has to defend them, if someone is not making good decisions, they can put their family at risk, they can put themselves at risk. Your decision-making process is a part of that safety. So if you can, at any case, live in a place that is safer as opposed to a place that is unsafe, you ought to, especially if you have a family, especially if you have children. And cloaking your cowardice through a guise of false piety, or the guise of being above it, or that you're just trusting that much, well, when you start to consider reality, when you start to consider the consequences of your inaction as well as your action, then you get to the point where you will realize there is only one thing you can do in certain circumstances. There isn't going to be a choice. And when you are faced with the choice of death, or your family being harmed, those are the points where you have a responsibility to your family, especially, to remain alive, as well as to protect them from harm. So as Christians, we are not for violence. We don't approve of violence as a general rule, unless it becomes no longer a choice. So you can say, we could segue into the whole just war thing, but this is not trying to be a video on pacifism or violence or any of that stuff, and it's very nuanced also. But when you are among people who are presenting themselves as pious, or as so brave and so trusting that they could not protect you if you were in danger, please be careful, because that is a one-way street. You might want to protect them, but they wouldn't be willing to do the same for you. And if a person you find, if a man is cowardly, then spiritually they have a weakness, a big one. And Satan will exploit that. He'll exploit that and to get to you through that other person, potentially. So don't go along with their false piety or their excuses for their reasoning, their rationalization. You can cloak cowardice all you want, but you can't hide it completely. And when the chips are down, when you're showing your cards, when there's no more choice, when you're backed into a corner, when you're injured and you can't flee, you want other men around you that will participate in your defense the same way you would for them and their families. Okay, that's all for this one. Until next time.